So here I go. Um, well, I saw the films with the DVD commentary that you did, and so I know quite a lot about the films themselves, but not so much about what happened afterwards. I mean, Aftermath came out more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
How often does it still screen for audiences these days?
Not very often. I think I'm not sure. I haven't been really asked to do screenings for at least 5 years, I think. But maybe people watch it on DVD or they do screenings without my knowledge. So I don't know.
And how many countries has it been shown in?
Oof, a lot. In a lot. Um, France, England, Germany, Spain, Estonia, North America.
And does the audience reaction seem different based on the country?
Not really. No, it's pretty similar.
Because, like for example, in Aftermath, there's the shock moment of stabbing.
Oh yeah.
And well, the angle there is really, really direct, and
Yeah.
I was kind of looking forward to that moment because I love one of the reasons I love watching horror films is like the anticipation. I was really looking forward to how the audience would react, and there was this gasp.
Oh yeah.
I guess that's common in every country.
Yeah, I remember that yesterday.
Yeah.
I remember that shot was very, as you say, very direct. My DP, my director photography, didn't want to shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a little too much for him.
And well, I know there's some religious subtext in Aftermath and some symbols there. And for example, I guess in Estonia, people wouldn't really catch it because this is a pretty much a faithless country. 80% of people have no religion. Well, I guess that's one difference. But when you communicate with people who see the film, have you heard any weird opinions about it or weird interpretations of the film that you find strange?
No, but I had people who were really offended and hostile towards the movie. I remember especially a film critic from the States called Chas Ballon, who now is passed away, but he was very against the movie. Thought it was a very dangerous film and asked to burn the negative. So, but in different places, I mean, especially when the movie came out for the first time, I had the most opposite reactions and more belligerent reactions. Now that the movie is 20 years old, it kind of like, eased down a little bit. And I think people have started to understand what the movie was about.
The last time I watched the film, yesterday, before that, I realized that millions of people nowadays have autopsies on their television screens because television shows like CSI have really realistic autopsies.
Yeah.
But when you came up with the story for Aftermath, I know that you felt the urge to do a film about autopsy.
Yes.
But when you came up with the story, at which part did the necrophilia aspect come in? Was that early on, or?
Yeah, it was early on, because I wanted to tell a story in the end, not doing a documentary. I wanted to use necrophilia as a way of, as part of this descent into hell, and post-mortem manipulation where you can't do anything. To put the audience in a very uneasy situation. And that was, I think, it's probably the sexual part is the most intimate thing of yourself that that could be disturbing to lose control of. You see what I'm saying? So that was probably part of the theme, but it has nothing to do with necrophilia. The movie has to do more with corruption of the flesh. Yes.
I know the film is more about the dead than the living, but I'm really compelled by Pep Horror in the film. I don't think he's done many movies after that, except for Genesis. He's also in Genesis. Do you know how he's doing these days?
I haven't seen him for a while. He's doing theater, a lot of that.
Okay.
He worked with Jama, but I don't. I think 2 movies 2 or 3 films, and maybe I will, see him again sometime and ask him to do something for a movie. I think I would like to do that, to be honest.
It makes sense that he does theater because he has the style of acting that's very physical, and I
Yeah.
think he did a lot of improvisation as well.
Yeah, and he's a very good director as well,
And
stage director.
and this character, we don't really learn that much about him. He kind of remains anonymous throughout the film. We don't learn his name. He's hidden behind the mask for the most of the time. And what I love Pep is, he uses his eyes as a weapon.
Yeah.
But when you came up with this character, did you kind of think about his backstory, or is there something about him that you know that we aren't told?
No, not on this film, but the Genesis, yes, I did. In fact, I shot pictures of his relationship with that girl. Some of them are in the movie, so I wrote a specific story for them to relate to each other because they didn't have any scenes together, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But for Aftermath, no, I wanted to not have any sort of backstory to the character. To be honest, some guy who was not even human,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Could be anybody.
And well, The Awakening was a film that you made when you were quite young, and I see a lot of confidence and creativity there. And the story for that one, where did that come from?
That was just a concept. It started with what would happen if time stopped.
Mm-hmm. And then it turned
into because we were thinking of how to end the story, and I came up with the idea that it was someone's experience dying.
It's quite funny, actually. I think you're in the film playing one of the students, right?
The teacher.
Oh, the teacher, really?
I'm the teacher, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I just wanted to say that you look so much like the teacher, but I thought the teacher looks quite old, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he looks kind of, I think you were 20 then?
I was 20.
Another one of the questions I wanted to ask is, I know sometimes directors get a chance to direct a full-length feature film based on a short film that they have done.
Yeah.
The example is Mama, another Spanish director.
Yes.
For example, if someone gave you the opportunity to take one of these shorts and fund it, give you full funding as much as you needed,
I wouldn't do it. No, I think there are stories by them on their own. They it would make sense to make them longer,
I think,
or to explore them. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm not interested in that.
It also seemed to me that for you, you connect the films themselves to a certain points in your time, in your life, and I know they're pretty personal efforts.
Exactly.
Are there any films that you like that handle death or perhaps even necrophilia?
Well, no, necrophilia, not at all. I think, again, it's not my favorite subject. I think most of horror films deal, of course, with death and, play with those ideas somehow. The first film that comes to my mind when talking about favorite titles is Jaws, the movie Jaws. I saw it when I was very little in the cinema, and when it opened, so I was only 6, and that really left a huge impact in me. Maybe the fact that there was a shark, chopping up, bodies. That was quite scary, and also, of course, something that as a 6-year-old couldn't really understand. But later on I watched the movie again, and I realized that the film still had the emotions intact, the same emotions I had watching it, and also the possibility of reproducing the emotions. So if I could play the movie again, I would feel the same way again. That's what made me want to make movies, to play with time a little bit.
And you consider Jaws a horror film? It's sometimes
but it's not a horror movie, but it's got certain elements. Yeah, because for instance, I remember one of the biggest scares in my life was when that head pops up out of the boat. I was terrifying, and that shot stayed, and even today.
Well, Aftermath is this year in the extreme film category. How do you feel about that kind of classification or categorization? Because I don't feel it's an extreme film
No,
compared to Necromantic, for example.
no, exactly. No, I don't think so. But it became known as a extreme or very controversial film. I don't think it's as tough as it could graphically. I mean, as graphic as other movies that we've seen before, especially for the last 10 years. In horror films, there's a lot of gore, a lot of, hostile, and you have, these, fun movies that in the end, they are way more graphic than mine. But I think there's some other context in this short, the Aftermath, and some subtext that it's more disturbing. Maybe it's the realistic approach, maybe it's the lack of humor, maybe it's a story that you can somehow relate to, so you can't distance yourself from it that much. That's what makes it more disturbing. But I don't think it's extreme in that sense, in the sense of graphicness. Yeah. Maybe a few. I mean, The Awakening and Genesis are not graphic at all.
No, yeah.
So it's 2 films out of 4 that I've made.
But one of the things I like about the trilogy is that they're stylistically quite different. Well, I don't know. I know they don't have a dialogue, but in terms of tone, I think there are differences between them, but they're all disturbing in their own way and tragic in their own way.
Yes, yes.
So that's, I think, the special part about this and seeing
Genesis had to be more aesthetic.
It's very melancholic. It's tragic at the end.
Yeah, it's very different from the other clinical approach. Less emotional in a way. It's much more Cronenberg, if you will. And the other one is a little more, I don't know, Guillermo del Toro like. I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if David Cronenberg liked Aftermath.
Yeah.
I think it's his kind of film. And strange last question. What do you think is the most interesting organ and why?
Interesting. I don't know. I mean, I probably it's the brain. It's most of our organs function the same way. Mm-hmm. Most of them, right? Your stomach does the same things mine does, but not the brain. Brain is very different. Even though the shape is similar, but what comes out of it, it's totally different. So it's very fascinating,
Yeah, I remember in Aftermath when the head gets stuffed with the towel, I think.
Yeah.
They also use, because they also use some other organs, but yeah, I know they stuff the head because it would collapse otherwise.
Yeah.
That's interesting part in the film.
Yeah, well, that was taken from the real notes, the notes that I took from watching an autopsy, because they put that towel to avoid the blood leaking from the openings.
Well, thank you very much. I guess that's it.
Well, thank you.